Generally in our culture, we think of compassion as gentle and peaceful and tender and things like that. So yes, compassion does have that aspect to it, but it also has a very, very strong, determined aspect to it as well. And it's very important for us to see both aspects of compassion. And sometimes I can see that in just how we chant the mantra, because the long mantra, we tend to slow it down and make it into a lullaby. We start out, Namaratnatraya, Namo Arigana Sagara Persana, Bharataya Tathagataya Arte Samya Sambuddhaya, Namo Sarva Tathagate Arhatebe Samya Sambuddhaya. We make it we have a tendency to make it into a lullaby, and there's times where you do want to chant it and make it into a lullaby. But there's other times, if you listen to that mantra, when you have to focus on it and make sure you don't slow it down, and you have to stay focused on the sound of the mantra and focused on getting those syllables out without slowing it down and making it into a lullaby, it gives you some energy. Can you feel that when we do the mantra out loud? There is some strong energy there, and you can feel that energy even in your body. Yeah, and so sometimes we have to do it. We have to make sure that we do it that way and that we're not going into lullaby mode. Yeah, because it takes really great courage and incredible strength of mind to have great compassion. Yeah, it's not that Chenrezig just kind of rocks everybody to sleep and says, "Oh, it's all gonna be okay." You can feel the energy of that mantra, and it's like, wake up and do something. Yeah, don't just go to sleep with your ignorance, but you have potential. Use it. Okay. So the mantra is telling us that, and also when we want to be compassionate with other people. Yeah, we can't have this. It's soft, gentle. Oh, that you're so offended by what I said. I'm very sorry. And go into people pleaser mode. That is not always the best thing for other people. Sure, there's times when we make a mistake, we have to apologize. Yeah, but when somebody's doing some kind of trip, self-centered trip, it isn't helpful for us to go along with their self-centered trip and let them feel sorry for themselves and let them manipulate the whole situation. It's much more compassionate, especially if they're Dharma people and they should be looking at their minds. With regular people who aren't looking at their minds, it could be a different situation. You have to handle it differently. But especially with Dharma people, you have to go in there and sometimes say, it sounds like you're angry. Yeah? Instead of, oh, poor you. Yeah, are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah? So, it, sometimes takes great strength, internal strength to do it. Because sometimes when you point out to people they're rubbish, they get mad at you. Yeah. So I'm not saying that we go around pointing out people's rubbish to them. If you have a Dharma friendship with somebody, and that they're working on their mind and they need some feedback, then you give them some gentle feedback. But it's honest feedback. It's not hampering and indulging them. Okay? Yeah, with people who aren't Dharma practitioners, sometimes you have to handle it a little bit differently because they aren't necessarily looking, wanting to understand their own afflictions and accept responsibility. So with them, often you have to be a little bit more gentle. Yeah. When Venerable Steve was here, we're both disciples. We have many of our teachers in common, and Geshe Tekcho, Kenza Jampa Tekcho, is one of them. And Steve was Geshe-la's translator, and sometimes Geshe-la could be so wrathful with Steve. I mean, just really, kind of, what are you doing? And Steve was telling me he used to get so angry. Yeah. And so, of course, this was his practice, wasn't it? His teacher's pointing out his faults, and he gets angry, and he realizes he has a problem with anger, and, and he has to work on it. And then I commented to him, Genla never did that to me because he probably knew I'd start crying. But he had other ways. He also didn't indulge me. He wasn't. He didn't go after me the same way he did with Steve. But he also definitely didn't indulge and called me on my trips. Yeah. So it's this is how you learn. How you learn. Okay. So we have to help each other that way. So, the example I always give is if you're working with somebody, if you have a relative or friend who has a substance abuse problem, you got to talk very straight to that person. If you have friends or relatives in prison, you have to talk straight. I mean, a number of people have... It's quite interesting, because I work with inmates, and they have remarkably good shit detectors. Excuse my English. I learned that word wasn't French. She told me it wasn't French, so I can't say excuse my French. Excuse my English. But they do. They have incredible good shit detectors, And if you're, not being sincere and straightforward, they pick up on it right away. Okay, and they'll exploit that. Whereas, if you talk straight with them, they can really come around, and I mean, they appreciate people talking straight with them. So we can talk straight with people without being abusive, because it's motivated by compassion and kindness, but it is, direct. Okay. Of course, it depends on the culture, too. There's some cultures where you don't speak directly to people. You go, in all sorts of other ways. When I first went to Singapore, it took me a while to figure out what people meant when they said things, because they would put things in the form of a question, and as an American, I thought, they're asking me a question. But it wasn't a question, it was an instruction. Because we'd be walking down the street, and they'd say, shall we cross the street? And I'm thinking, well, do I want to or not? And they're already on the other side. So instead of saying, we're crossing the street, they say, shall we cross the street? Okay, so you have to pick up on what the culture is saying and how different people use words, too. Okay. Yeah, many cultures are much more straightforward. Tibetan culture, for example, is not very straightforward. There's a lot of things that get communicated, in other ways. And I think Chinese culture is like that too. And we Americans tend to be sometimes quite dense. We don't pick up on things. We don't look at how people are behaving in a situation and figure out from that what is the norm and what is expected of us. Yeah, we just go through and do our thing until somebody says something to us in words. Yeah, But sometimes it can be quite helpful for us to be a little bit more subtle and watch how different people do things. And then that tells us how we need to behave in the situation, what the cultural expectations are. Yeah? You getting what I'm saying? That does not mean becoming ego-sensitive. Yeah, looking at every little thing somebody does like, are they mad at me? Did I do something wrong? That's just egocentric junk. Okay, I'm not talking about that. Okay, yeah. Okay, but yeah, we Americans we're sometimes kind of dense. Yeah. I think it comes out in international relationships too. We just don't pick up on what people are trying to do or say. Okay, anyway, let's come back to the sadhana and look at these two sadhanas. We were in the middle of the 7-limb prayer for purifying and creating merit, and we talked about prostrations, offering, and confession so far. And doing these also with an awareness of dependent arising, and how, what they say, the circle of three, the agent, the actor, and the action, how all these three are interdependent and thus lack inherent existence. And so this 7-limb prayer, it's very standard, on Sunday morning we'll do the Lama Chopa Puja. It's in there. Almost every practice there is either a long or a short version of the 7-limb prayer. And I think it comes originally from the Avatamsaka Sutra. If we look in the King of Prayers, in the Red Book, the beginning part of the King of Prayers is a 7-limb prayer. Okay, so I think it comes from that. In the Chinese tradition, they talk about the beginning of that prayer, and they talk about the 10 practices or 10 aspirations of bodhisattvas. So they add paying homage to the Buddhas, and following the Buddha's instruction, and working to benefit sentient beings. I think those are the 3 that are added, if my memory is correct, in addition to the 7 that we usually do. Okay? Okay, so let's go on to rejoicing. So in the short text it says, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Holy beings are the Aryas, those who have seen reality with direct perception, and ordinary beings are the rest of us. Okay, who don't see reality. Okay. In the long version it says, from the depths of my heart I rejoice in the enlightening deeds of the sublime masters, and in the virtuous actions past, present, and future performed by myself and all others as well, and by ordinary and exalted beings of the 3 sacred traditions. Okay, so here, from the depths of my heart, so again, from the depths of my heart, not just from my mouth, I'm rejoicing in the virtue of the world. Okay, so I rejoice in the enlightening deeds of the sublime masters. In the text Uttara Tantra, or in Tibetan it's called Gyu Lama, the Sublime Continuum, there's a whole section in there about the Buddha's enlightening activities. What a Buddha does, how a Buddha communicates to benefit sentient beings. So we rejoice in that because, because the Buddhas perform their enlightening activities, then we're able to meet the Dharma, receive their inspiration, gain realizations. Okay, so we rejoice in that. We don't think that all of our realizations just kind of came from me because I'm so super, but it's really due to the Buddha teaching us. So we rejoice in their virtues and their enlightening deeds, and we also rejoice in the virtuous actions of the 3 times, the past, present, and future, performed by ourselves and also all others. Okay? So this is a very important practice, to rejoice in our own virtue and rejoice in the virtue of others too. So often we are so intent on berating ourselves, thinking that somebody is upset, or something went wrong because of something I did, because something's wrong with me. I'm so powerful that I can make everything go wrong. Yeah, you know that one. And, and always putting ourselves down. And here this is saying, well, we also created a lot of virtue. And let's rejoice in our own virtue. It's very important to rejoice in our own virtue. Becoming self-centered and attributing every problem to our own selves, that is just self-centered rubbish. But rejoicing in our own virtue that was created with a good intention, we have to pat ourselves on the back and be happy about it. It's very, very important. If all we do is put ourselves down, how are we going to get anywhere? Yeah, we have to really see what our virtue is and how much virtue we've created just even to get this precious human life that we have. Tremendous amount of virtue. Yeah, having the opportunity to come to retreat. There were so many people who signed up for this retreat who couldn't come at the end. At the last moment they canceled. Some interference. Karma ripened. There's an interference. All you people didn't have that interference. Yeah, your virtue enabled you to come here and create more virtue by being here. Aren't you happy? Yeah? Yeah? I mean, would you rather be at home? Yeah? So, you're incredibly fortunate. And in previous lives, what you did to get this opportunity and all the virtue you're creating by being here and practicing and meditating and attending teachings and looking at your mind and working together in community and everything like that. So it's very important to rejoice at our own virtue and the virtue of each other, all the virtue in the world. Yeah, because if all we do is just sit there and oh, I'm so deficient, oh, I got angry, oh, I have so much attachment, oh, I blew up again today, oh, this, oh, that, then we're wasting our opportunity by just sitting and discouraging ourselves. Yeah, so it's very important to say, wow, I created so much virtue. And I really rejoice. This is wonderful. And everybody here is creating virtue. And you know what I find amazing? Like the guys building the building, they have no clue what they're doing, I mean, there's two of them who have a little bit of interest, a little bit of a clue. But, just even working on building a building that is going to be used, the purpose of that building is to create virtue. Okay, so they're making that building possible. They're creating some virtue. Now, of course, according to their motivations and what's going on in their mind, some are creating more virtue, some are creating less virtue. Okay, you'll see Larry, who's building the throne for Chenrezig, the Kuan Yin statue that was blessed, and he's really into it. Yeah, I mean, really, he gets what the Abbey's about, and because of his influence, Mark the other day, wanted me to tell him something about the altar that was in there and explain that. So he's beginning to, well, something's happening here. Yeah. And, so even that level of virtue. And then, of course, to rejoice at Rinpoche's virtue, rejoice at His Holiness's virtue, rejoice at, all the Arya beings, the virtue. So when it says, performed by myself and all others as well, and by all ordinary and exalted beings of the three sacred traditions. The three sacred traditions there are the hearers, the solitary realizers, and the bodhisattvas. So those are actually the three vehicles. Yeah, We often call them the three vehicles: the hearer vehicle, the solitary realizer vehicle. The people who practice them aim to free themselves of afflictive obscurations and become arhats. And then the third vehicle, the bodhisattva vehicle, where people aim to become fully awakened beings, and they eliminate not only the afflictive obscurations but also the cognitive obscurations. So, then when we hear texts, when they say that, in Aryadeva's text, it was saying like the amount of virtue created by a bodhisattva, the high-level bodhisattvas, to create like the signs and marks of a fully enlightened one. It's infinite, that not even the Buddha can see the end of that infinite virtue. Okay? So we can go, oh, how am I ever going to create that? Or we can go, fantastic, wow, incredible infinite virtue that all these bodhisattvas create, and they become Buddhas, because there's infinite number of bodhisattvas, infinite number of Buddhas, and if they can create that infinite virtue, so can I. Yeah? And so we rejoice, And so they say that rejoicing is the lazy person's way of creating merit. Yeah. Because if you rejoice at the virtue of somebody who is more highly developed than you, you get half the amount of virtue. If you rejoice at somebody whose virtue is equal to yours, you get the equal amount, even if you're not the one who does the action. And if you rejoice at the virtue of somebody who has less understanding, you get twice as much, merit. So it really is the lazy person's way to create merit. Yeah. And it's a very good way to replace our judgmental, critical mind. The mind that sits there just when we're in public and just looks at people and, that person walks funny, that one's too fat, that one's too thin, why did they dye their hair like that? That one looks so stupid, that one this, that one that, this one this. Always critical thoughts towards others. Rejoicing totally replaces that. Yeah. With wow, so you rejoice in others' virtue, but we also rejoice that they have happiness in this life. So rather than be jealous of their happiness, that one is very talented. I rejoice in that. That one's very good looking. I rejoice in that. That one's very rich. I rejoice. You rejoice at whatever they have instead of being jealous of it. So rejoicing is, a very good antidote to the pain of jealousy. Because jealousy is so painful. So painful. So, to really switch that around and rejoice at not only their virtue that they created that leads them to have the good circumstances, but also their good circumstances. Okay, then the next one. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. So those are two of them together. Sometimes they're in that order, where first you ask the Buddhas to remain, until cyclic existence ends, and then you ask your teacher and the Buddha to turn the Dharma wheel to give teachings. So sometimes it's in that order. Here in the yellow one, it's in the opposite order. First we request teachings, then we ask them please to remain. Okay? So the requesting verse, I request you to awaken every living being from the sleep of ordinary and instinctive defilements with the divine music of the Dharma's pure truth, resounding with the melody of profundity and peace, and in accordance with the disposition of your various disciples. Okay, so here we're requesting the Buddhas, the Guru, to awaken every living being from the sleep of ordinary and innate defilements. So ordinary defilements, I think what it means is the acquired defilements, the ones that we learned in this life due to wrong philosophies, wrong psychologies. And then the innate defilements are the ones that are innate, that we just carry with us from one lifetime to the next, that are very difficult to uproot. So we're requesting, please, to awaken every living being from the acquired and the innate defilements. And how is the Buddha going to do that? Yeah, again, it's not by sprinkling fairy dust. It's by teaching. And that's why we say that of the Buddha's, enlightening activities of body, speech, and mind, it's the second one, the enlightening activities of his speech, that is the most important, because that's the main way that the Buddha communicates with us and teaches us the Dharma. Yeah, is through speech. So sometimes we get this thing, and it's like, oh, there's these people who have visions of Chenrezig. I want to have a vision of Chenrezig. But think about it. Isn't hearing teachings much more beneficial to your mind? When you hear teachings, aren't you hearing the speech of Chenrezig? Yeah. When you're getting teachings on how to do the practice, or when we're reading, like the sutra we read this morning, aren't we getting teachings? Yeah. So the speech of Chenrezig, I think, is, we're so incredibly fortunate to hear the speech of Chenrezig, that the fact that we don't have a vision, that's okay. Let's listen to the speech and rejoice in that and pay attention to that. And later, we can have a vision. But, when you think about it, what's going to have the strongest impact on your life? It's the teachings, isn't it? Yeah. Actually, they say that some statues talk. When I went to Tibet, there were some places where, they would say that different statues talked. So then you would get the speech of Chenrezig directly through the statue. Okay. So request to awaken every living being from the sleep of ordinary and innate defilements with the divine music of the Dharma's pure truth. Okay? So the truth of the Dharma that is totally infallible, that can't be negated by reasoning or experience. And resounding with the melody of profundity and peace. So profundity refers to the wisdom realizing emptiness. Peace is often synonymous with nirvana. Okay, the state of liberation. So that's what all the teachings are aimed at, is getting us to liberation. Yeah. They say that the Buddhas benefit sentient beings in whatever way they can, for the ultimate purpose of leading them to liberation. So, us in our ignorance, we may pray to the Buddha, Buddha, please, may I win the lottery, please, may I get a new washing machine, please, can my green card come through? We pray for all sorts of worldly things. Yeah, but the real thing that the Buddha is trying to get us to understand is the profound teachings on emptiness that will lead us to the state of peace, to nirvana. So we should definitely request for those teachings as well. Not just, can I get a new dress or can I get a new suit, but can I really receive the teachings, and then can I put them into practice in my life, day by day, moment by moment. Okay, and so asking the Buddha to teach in accordance with the disposition of the various disciples. So, you look among sentient beings, people have so many different aptitudes and interests and dispositions and capabilities. And one thing that you really see about a Buddha is that a Buddha can talk to sentient beings according to their own disposition, according to what they need to hear. Yeah. We tend to be, in our speech, one size fits all. Okay? There is a rule, and we say the same thing to everybody, and everybody has to follow the same rule. Okay? One size fits all. Buddha, on the other hand, sees some people are inclined towards this, some people are capable of that, some people are interested in this, some people, can do well in that, and then teaches them according to where they're at so that they can really develop. Okay? So it's like, in our school system, all the standardized testing that we do, that's the one-size-fits-all approach. And it's expecting every single child to learn the exact same skills by a certain age. Yeah? Okay? It doesn't work, does it? Most of us have been through the public school system or some school system. It doesn't work, does it? Some kids pick up math, some kids pick up English, some kids have incredible artistic ability, some kids learn by seeing, others by hearing, others by doing. If you're able to teach kids according to their strengths and encourage what they're good at, they're going to learn a lot better than if you try and make everybody learn this exact same thing by age 7 or by age 8 or age 9. Yeah? So this is how a Buddha teaches. There's incredible sensitivity to the differences in how we think and how we act. And what we're capable of. So we request the Buddha to teach in accordance with the dispositions of sentient beings. But I think it also, whenever I say that, it reminds me of two things. One is, I have to act in accordance with the dispositions of sentient beings and not be one size fits all. Okay? And second of all, how skillful the Buddha is that he's able to teach different people different things at different times. Now, so they always say, kind of regarding the nature of reality, to some people, the Buddha said there was a self. There's a self-sufficient, substantially existent self. He would say that. Or he'd say there was a truly existent self. Yeah, because that was the best way to guide disciples with that kind of mentality at that particular time in their practice. If he had told those disciples, everything is empty of true existence, they would have freaked out. Seriously, they would have totally freaked out and gotten the wrong idea, thinking that nothing existed. And so rather than harm them that way, the Buddha taught them according to their karma and their mental disposition. And in that way was able to lead them gradually. So this is also the reason why, as Buddhists, we respect all the different religious traditions, because all of them are meeting the need of people who have certain dispositions and certain tendencies and capabilities. Yeah, it wouldn't work to say everybody has to be a Buddhist and everybody has to hold the Prasangika view. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't be beneficial to people. So for some people, there's the idea that there's a creator and you please God, you try and be kind to God's creations, you please God by keeping ethical conduct and not harming others. So for people of a certain disposition, that kind of teaching is very beneficial for them. Yeah, it helps them create merit and abstain from doing the 10 non-virtues. It helps them cultivate love and compassion, But so we respect the people who believe in a creator, even though in Buddhist teachings we refute the existence of that creator right, left, and center and say it's totally impossible for such a creator God to exist. Okay, so we do that within ourselves to gain the correct view. But regarding other people, we see, that view helps them to be good people. So we respect it. Yeah? We don't go around saying everybody has to be Buddhist. Okay? So I think this is a much better view, don't you? Yeah? Sometimes, I remember being in school sometimes, and some kid coming up to me and then saying, but Jesus said, what did Jesus say? I am the light and I am...
Truth, I am the light, I am the way.
Okay, I am the truth, I am the light, I am the way. I never learned that stuff. But this kid said, but Jesus said that, so isn't that true for everybody? Shouldn't everybody believe in Jesus? And I responded to that kid and I said, when Jesus is saying that, he isn't talking about himself. He's talking about the values and principles and qualities that he embodies. So he's saying kindness is the
way, the truth, and the light.
The way, the truth, and the light. Yeah. Ethical conduct is the way, the truth, and the light. Compassion is the way, the truth, and the light. That's what Jesus means when he's saying that. He's not saying everybody has to believe in him, because Jesus doesn't have any ego problems. He doesn't, he doesn't need everybody to believe in him. He's trying to get across a message to living beings about how to live, and that's what he means. But of course that's not what that child was taught. Yeah, but I hope maybe, they thought a little bit afterwards about, maybe I can look at what Jesus said in a slightly different way, and, might make me a little bit more open-minded. Okay? So acknowledging this difference. Okay, and then the next one, entreating. This is asking the Buddha and our spiritual mentors, please, asking our spiritual mentors to live long and asking the Buddhas to continually manifest until samsara ends. So I entreat you to firmly establish your feet upon the indestructible Vajra throne in the indissolvable, is that right? Indissolvable? Indissoluble. Okay. Indissolvable state of Avam, until every sentient being gains the calm breath of joy in the state of final realization, unfettered by the extremes of worldliness or tranquil peace. Okay, so until all sentient beings attain liberation, okay, when it says unfettered by the extremes of worldliness or tranquil liberation in the last line, okay, this means unfettered. Worldliness refers to the extreme of samsara, and the extreme of tranquil liberation is what we say the extreme of nirvana. Okay, and so in the extreme of samsara, we are attached to our sense objects. Our minds are filled with wrong conceptions about how things exist, thinking that they are inherently existent when in fact they exist dependently. Yeah, so being unfettered by that weight of our samsaric mentality and its results, and also unfettered by tranquil liberation. That's referring to the liberation of a hearer or solitary realizer arhat, somebody who eliminated the afflictive obscurations, attain liberation themselves, but do not have the bodhicitta, and so they don't seek full awakening, and instead reside in this state of incredible peace, called tranquil liberation. We could also call it the extreme of personal peace, or the extreme of nirvana. Okay? And so a Buddha has attained what we call Nan Abiding Nirvana, since a Buddha doesn't abide in the extreme of samsara with ignorance, anger, and attachment, and Buddha doesn't abide in the extreme of personal nirvana, which has the self-centered attitude that my liberation is more important than other people's liberation, that I'm seeking my liberation alone. And so a Buddha doesn't have that mental state either. Okay, so here we're asking, I entreat you to firmly establish your feet upon the indestructible Vajra throne in the indissoluble state of Evam. Okay, that means in the indissoluble, in the, immutable or undisintegrating state. Evam represents reality, the nature of reality. Okay. So to establish your feet, in that way, in the state of reality, whereby you can manifest, make manifest emanations throughout the universe for the benefit of all beings. So until every sentient being gains the calm breath of joy in the state of final realization being the realization of Buddhahood, where one has the union of bliss and emptiness, the union of one is actually way before Buddhahood. One has the union of shamatha and vipassana, of serenity and insight. Okay, so requesting, a Buddha, please don't go into your own nirvana and stay there, but please continue to manifest until all of samsara is empty. Yeah? So we're not just asking the Buddha to please remain so that I can get liberated. Yeah, like my spiritual teacher, don't pass away until I'm liberated. Buddha, don't stay in your own tranquil peace until I'm liberated. Yeah, that's quite self-centered. We're asking until every single living being is liberated. Okay, so when we become Buddhas, then we also will remain until every living being is liberated. Okay, then the next verse is dedicating. In the short one it says, I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. Great enlightenment means that Nan Abiding Nirvana. And in the yellow, it says, I dedicate fully my virtuous activities of the 3 times, past, present, and future, so that I may receive continuous care from a master and attain full awakening for the benefit of all, through accomplishing my prayers, the sublime deed of Samantabhadra. Okay, so all of our virtue that we created in the past, that we're creating now, that we will create in the future. We're not just going to hold it all for ourselves, okay? But we're dedicating it specifically, this is a Guru Yoga practice, so that we can receive continuous care from a master, okay? So that in all of our lives, from now until full awakening, we can always meet a fully qualified Mahayana and Vajrayana spiritual master, and actually many fully qualified Mahayana and Vajrayana spiritual mentors who can guide us on the path. Because as we were saying when we started out, the relationship with the spiritual mentor is incredibly important, because that person is our role model, and that person is the one who gives us, in the absence of Shakyamuni Buddha here, that person is the one who acts as the representatives and gives us the same teachings that the Buddha would teach. And that person guides us and, cares for us so that we can practice. So we always need a really kind and wise spiritual mentor. If you're going to do it by a book, good luck. Yeah? Or if you're going to do it by having some charismatic spiritual mentor who is charismatic but is not wise and compassionate, also good luck. Okay, that's not going to work. So we're really dedicating here to make sure that, from the very get-go in next life and all of our future lives, that we meet really reliable and qualified spiritual mentors. And not only that we meet them, but that we recognize them to be qualified, and that we cultivate a good relationship with them, that we go to teachings, that we listen to their instructions and put their instructions into practice. Okay, so not just to meet spiritual mentors, first of all, not just to meet any old spiritual mentor, but to meet one, that we have a karmic connection with, that is really qualified. Now, because, in America, spiritual mentors are a dime a dozen. Yeah, look at any New Age newspaper, and there's somebody who's going to, do something for you for a small amount. Yeah, but we're saying, I'm not interested in that, I want to meet a really fully qualified spiritual mentor. And not just meet, but I want to recognize that this person is a fully qualified spiritual mentor. Because there's many people who meet, for example, His Holiness. Yeah. And, if you're a bureaucrat in the Communist Party, you meet His Holiness, do you see a fully qualified spiritual mentor? No, you see a splitter of the homeland, who you then criticize, and in the process create negative karma. Yeah. If you're a scientist and you meet His Holiness, do you see a fully qualified spiritual mentor? It depends on the scientist, doesn't it? Some scientists are smart, and they see a fully qualified spiritual mentor. Other scientists look and say, oh, how quaint. He's from Tibet. Where's Tibet? Isn't that land, where they didn't have wheels before 1959, that backward land, where they still believe in spirits. And isn't he from that place? But he's so sweet, So, you never know how people are going to react. I've walked in with one of my teachers whose English is not great, whose diction is not great, and people can't stay and bear to listen to the teachings because he clears his throat so much and his enunciation isn't clear. And they just walk out. And they have no clue who they're walking out on. Yeah? So, we have to prepare our mind, not just meeting any old spiritual mentor, but, meeting somebody who I have a karmic connection with, who's fully qualified, who can guide me, and for me, from my side, may I not be stupid. That's the important part. May I not be stupid when I meet this teacher. Yeah. And may I really recognize what's going on and form a close relationship and go out of my way to receive teachings and to serve that teacher and to put the teachings into practice. There was a period of time in the early 90s when there were all sorts of scandals about Buddhist masters. There still are quite a number of them, but everybody's not so inflamed about it. But in the early 90s, people were quite inflamed, and some of them were really quite awful. But I remember, because I would go to some of these meetings of people from the different Buddhist traditions and listen to their stories about what was going on in their tradition or with their teacher or whatever. And I remember one day talking to Alex Burson, who's a very dear old friend of mine, and we also share many of the same teachers, and just sitting there and saying, how did we get so lucky? It's like none of our teachers are enmeshed in any scandals. Not a one. How did we get so lucky to meet these teachers, who are really, the real McCoy? And just this I remember that discussion, and just this sense of wonder about, how did that happen? How did we get so lucky, So when thinking about it, I think because there must have been some kind of dedication like this in previous lives. Yeah, some kind of way of steering the mind in previous lives so that this life it ripened in that way, and we were both incredibly fortunate. Okay, so we're dedicating to receive the continuous care from a master and to attain full enlightenment for the benefit of all. Okay, so we're dedicating also for our own full enlightenment, but not just so that I can be enlightened. May I be enlightened, may I attain the highest realization, because then I will be a Buddha, and then people will offer me some bananas. Yeah. And they'll come in and they'll bow down to me while they're still thinking about breakfast and lunch. Yeah. So, we're dedicating for the enlightenment of every single sentient being. It has nothing to do with our own ego benefit. Okay? Nothing to do with, I want to be special and become a Buddha so that I'm special. It's really, solely for the benefit of sentient beings. And if you're a Buddha, if you're a highly realized being, you don't need people's offerings, you don't need their praise. Yeah. If you've realized emptiness, you don't need this kind of piddly stuff that we're so attached to. Yeah. I mean, somebody gives us a present and we go, oh, I feel loved. I mean, we're so kind of, oh, look, they gave me that, I feel loved. Or somebody says a kind word, oh, I feel so good. For a Buddha, it's like that's uninteresting. Just uninteresting. A Buddha, even less than a Buddha, any Arya being, that's like, okay, they gave me a present, I rejoice that they created some good karma. Yeah, they praise me, I rejoice that they had a good attitude. That good attitude will help them. But from that side of that Arya being, it's like, they don't need that. Now think about it. From your side, wouldn't it be nice not to need that yourself? Wouldn't it be nice not to need for people to give you presents so that you felt good? That you just felt good all by yourself because of the state of your mind, regardless of whether people gave you presents or didn't. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice that no matter whether people praised you or not, you felt completely confident and peaceful in your own heart? Yeah. And that you didn't react with bias and prejudice to people according to whether they praised and criticized you, but you just kind of looked at that like, who cares? Yeah. My job is to benefit this person. Okay, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. So this is a possibility. This is why we're practicing, so that we can free our mind from these kind of afflictions. So it's nice to think that there are already Arya beings who have done this, who we can learn from, and in the process, who we pay respect to because they have these realizations. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
Could you define and/or explain merit?
Merit is good karma. Okay, it is the effect of positive actions that creates a potential in your mind stream that will ripen. However, usually however you dedicate it, whatever you dedicate it for. So it might ripen in good things in samsara. It might ripen in having the cooperative conditions to practice the Dharma, in attaining realizations. Yeah. So it's the result of our positive actions. It is the carrying of the energy, of the positive energy that we created, to, bearing its final result. Yeah. I know it's a difficult concept, because we're very tangible. It's like, show me some merit. But, I can't show you any. But you can tell, you can have some experience, I think, of accumulating merit, like when you go to a retreat and you go through things, and your legs hurt and this hurts, and you really stay in there and you hang in there and you're doing your practice, and then at the end of the retreat, do you feel different? Yeah? Do you have some feeling of confidence, some feeling like, wow, I did something really good? Do you have that feeling? Yeah. Okay, that shows that there was an accumulation of merit. Yeah, that you feel sustained by the merit that you create. It kind of holds you up, and you, it changes your mind in that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You were talking about how great it feels to accept offerings and gifts and things. But there's the opposite too. There's the feeling of, oh my gosh, people have given me this gift and I'm not worthy. Is it the same sort of self-centered thing?
Okay. Yeah, so this is a very good question. Yeah, that, we like to receive gifts and we feel very happy, but sometimes we often feel unworthy, and we get tangled up in all sorts of things like, oh, somebody did something kind, or somebody gave me something. I'm unworthy. I'm so bad. I don't do anything for others. How come they're giving something to me that isn't right? I'm undeserving. We get into that trip. Who's the star of that show? Me. Or we get into another trip. They gave me something, now I'm obliged. Okay? Oh, so they know they gave me this gift and it was worth this much, so now when they need something, I'm going to have to give them something. And they were nice to me, so I'm going to have to be nice back, but I don't really like them very much. And there's this heavy feeling of obligation. Okay? Both of those responses are just conceptual rubbish. Yeah. If you look, both of those responses are just our own conceptual thoughts, aren't they? They are not in the situation. Nowhere in that situation is that there. I am dreaming something up and projecting it on the situation. Yeah, and making myself miserable. Now, somebody's going to say, but my mother did something and she expects something back. I know that because she's told me so. Yeah. But that is that person's conceptual problem. Isn't it? If you help somebody and your gift is not free, it's not freely given, and you have strings attached because you're wanting something from that person, then your gift hasn't really been a gift, has it? It's become more like a bribe.
Ethical discipline wrapped up in relationship.
Okay, so it's more like a bribe, so we have to really, kind of not get pulled in by that. But on the other hand, if somebody has been kind to us, regardless of their motivation, even if they are, who knows what their motivation is, to really appreciate that, and from our side say thank you and show our appreciation. But that doesn't mean that we have to do what they want us to do thereafter. Okay, that's our conceptual rubbish. You can see when you look that how many of our problems are made up by our mind and just how we think, that they don't exist in the situation at all. Yeah? So when we realize this can actually be quite freeing. Now it's like, oh, I can drop all of that stuff. Yeah? And then just from my heart, if somebody gives me something, I rejoice that they create merit. I rejoice that they have a virtuous attitude. May I, be able to help other people and give them gifts and have a virtuous attitude. Now, and even if I don't have something physical to give others, may I give them a smile. May I give them some encouraging words. May I have a pleasant appearance. May I be cooperative. That's my way of repaying what, the gift that somebody's given. I think they call it paying it forward, or paying it, I don't know, paying it some way. But, it's you just do something from the goodness of your heart. That's it.